for why the US finds itself in this space. So what we've actually done is we've taken a step back and we've made a whole new timeline ranging back about 50 years, which we're going to reveal in the coming weeks and months as we lead up to release. And hopefully that should help explain what the key events were through history that led to the US ending up in this situation. So yeah, more on the red zone. Obviously, we've, like I mentioned, it's bombed out, it's ruins, and we actually created this world with traversal in mind. We wanted the player to use tactics that were, again, very guerrilla. So you get into a fight, you don't want to linger, you get out as soon as you've done what you need to, because you don't want to be around when the reinforcements arrive. So we built the world.
And the reinforcements will arrive.
The reinforcements will always arrive in heavy numbers. So you don't have the best guns, the KPA have the best guns, they've got their drones, they've got all of the big weapons, so you don't want to be around when those reinforcements arrive. So you basically do what you need to do and get out of there ASAP. And we've introduced a bike in Homefront the Revolution, and that is catering for the kind of environment we've created in this red zone. So we have like all of these ramps that kind of cut through buildings, quick ways to get in and out of combat.
Can you attack people while you're on the bike?
Not right now, but I'm not saying that isn't going to happen. That is potentially something that we will introduce. But weapon customization, us being our studio, we have a long history in wanting to create weapons that are not only interesting but can be heavily modified. Again, the homebrew DIY aspect of things, we've always wanted to create weapons that the player feels comfortable with. So what we've done with Homefront the Revolution is we've created a whole bunch of base weapons that the player can initially acquire, but then as they scavenge through the world and get blueprints and other items, they can actually customize these weapons to be a whole new weapon in a way. So for instance, what he just used there was a base level shotgun, but he transformed that into an Inferno launcher, which actually fires off incendiary rounds. So it's a completely different weapon based off of a shotgun.
What's he doing here? What's going on
so
with this?
So this is actually a network transceiver. This was actually his first objective. The network transceiver is a strike point, which when you hack into it, which is what Craig just did, it actually reveals parts of the map with more content. But at the same time, taking strike points is what Homefront the Revolution is all about. So basically, we're trying to fight back and take control of the city, take control back from the KPA. So every time you complete a strike point in Philadelphia, you're actually introducing a resistance presence in that area. Now this is interesting mainly because when you're introducing more resistance, that doesn't necessarily mean that the KPA are clear of that area and they're not going to show up. They're still there. They're the ruling party. They're going to stay there. But what you're doing is you're introducing resistance guys into the area. So whatever other missions you do in that space, all of a sudden you might find that you've got resistance backup in places that you wouldn't have had initially.
So you'll have NPCs who will fight with you and alongside you?
Yeah, they're going to get involved. All of a sudden you'll see maybe snipers, maybe you'll see guys running along on the road. The other thing is that every time you see people, resistance guys on the street, they're actually there for their own mission, their own resistance mission, objectives. So if you actually follow them, they'll actually lead you to something that they were going to go do. So it all ties into trying to create an open world that's living and breathing, and the resistance is something that's going to happen whether you're there or not. So
what era have you set this in? Is it present day?
No, so this is 2029 is when the game is set, but obviously the lead up to all of this we'll hopefully reveal in the coming weeks and months.
And it's all set in Philadelphia as opposed to across other cities in the United States?
So this is completely set in the city of Philadelphia.
Is it recognizable to people who've been there? Will they know this? Or has the future moved on and the war is torn it down?
We haven't gone Google Maps accurate with Philadelphia, but people who've lived or been to Philadelphia will recognize key landmarks. Obviously, like I mentioned right at the start, this is just the red zone. This is one of 4 different red zones that we have in the game. So this is just a very small fraction of what we're showing. Apart from the red zones, we've got yellow zones, which are a completely different feel and vibe to what we're seeing right now. The yellow zones are more of where the civilian population is, because as you can see in this, you're not seeing many civilians around. It's quite, it's mainly just you and drones. And KPA, because no civilians are allowed here. The yellow zone is where the KPA kind of force all the civilians. So it's kind of the ghettos of the city. It's where they're basically forcing the people to live so that they can keep an eye on them, because it's a tighter space, so it's easier to keep an eye on them.
So does that mean there's loads of civilians running around? You have to be more careful with your shooting?
It changes the dynamics of
you can't fire an incendiary where you would have otherwise.
You can absolutely do that.
But you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to say what you can and can't do. It's just a matter of it's a very different environment. So you have to be careful. There's more CCTV cameras. There's more patrols on walkways. Obviously, again, the civilians are there as well, so that's a different dynamic. So it's a very different environment. And then finally, we've got green zones, which is where the landmarks are. These are like the posh part of town. This is where the landmarks are. This is where the KPA have set up their headquarters, basically. This is where they're running the show from. So we've got missions in the green zone as well. And again, this is the opulent part of town, which looks nothing like the other districts.
And presumably those are harder because that's the kind of base.
Absolutely. That's like, we've got key missions in that area as well. So again, we're not showing that right now. We're just focusing on the red zone at the moment. But again, there's a whole lot more to Philadelphia, and we tried to make sure that we offer a lot of variety in the type of spaces the player comes across.
Okay, so we've got a new mission popped up here. Strike point, secure the Vanguard, I think that's it.
Yes, so Craig obviously just did the antenna strike point. Now he's interacting with another strike point, which is the train yard. So I believe this is a mission where he needs to power up this
Find a generator
PC,
to restore power for the train yard.
Yeah, so now he's basically going to go and try to find a generator to power up this.
So strike points will reveal more locations on the map.
Yeah, it won't only reveal more locations, but it'll actually help you take a section of
and help with the resistance
the
in that area.
Yeah. So every strike point is linked to a section of Philadelphia. So every time you take a strike point, it's going to unlock that area and introduce resistance into that space. So yeah, I mean, like there are all sorts of strike points in this game, and like I said, we got strike points across multiple districts with different like atmosphere and vibe as well. So
and it's an open world first person shooter, so people have got freedom.
Absolutely. I mean, like again, Craig is currently freestyling it and interacting with whatever he feels he needs to. But what we can do is, after he's finished this, which he's almost done,
he's scavenging, isn't he? And
yeah, I think he's just switched on the generator, and he's now heading back to see whether the power is back. It should be. Yeah, so again, like he's got to be careful when roaming around in the open, because as you can see, we've got snipers, KPA snipers that actually occupy rooftops, and these guys can actually offer different challenges. We've got plenty of patrols and plenty of drones, and it's important for the players to utilize the GTK.
So the Koreans are vastly outnumbering you in manpower and technology as well.
Yes.
And they have drones. We've seen some drones attacking Craig earlier on. Yeah. Do you have access to anything like that? Reconnaissance vehicles? We saw a bike.
Yeah. So the bike, we've got other vehicles as well, but we can't really talk about that too much. But the main thing is the GTK allows you to subvert drones as well. So you can use that to turn the tide in a combat situation.
You can hack them to fight for you.
You can, for instance, if you see a seeker drone, which is actually one of the drones that we saw earlier, that actually scans the area for any problems, and if it actually spots you, it will call in more reinforcements. So you can actually hack that to temporarily be an ally, and what that will do is it will actually kind of just go and try to throw itself into the nearest KPA soldier that it can find. So you can do various things with different drones using your GTK. So one of the things we can do right now is actually bring up the map and just see what kind of other strike points we have available. And since this is an open world game and we've got choices, we can actually try to get some of the
crowd. Let's have a look at some of the options. Craig, just take us around a few of the things on the map so we can see what they're
Feel free to choose which kind of strike point you want to.
Strike point here. What do the different icons represent?
So the blue one in the middle tells you it's a bike stash. So that is basically one of the bikes that Craig was using earlier.
Which we can use for fast travel and get around the world.
And you can. It's not fast travel, it's mainly just to traverse the district very quickly. The flags themselves are normal strike points, one of which Craig just did right now. That fortress type thing in the middle is probably the toughest thing. It's a stronghold. It's where the KPA are actually using a gas injector to kind of pump gas into the tunnels that run below Philadelphia.
Okay.
And this is to try and prevent the resistance from utilizing these tunnels to get around. So yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing, and if you guys are feeling mean, you can try to get Craig to do that one.
So should we try and find out what people want to do? Has anybody in our audience played Homefront before, the original game?
Yeah, this is nothing like that, to be honest. This is a completely new game.
Few people who know it, though. Who would like to choose what's going to happen next?
Yeah, what should he interact with?
Yes, you. Yeah, great, okay. So what are our choices, Craig, in our little Homefront the Revolution game show? We've got a choice of that strike point,
You've got 3 strike points and a stronghold. Say stronghold so that Craig has
3 strike points, or the thing we all want to see him die trying to fight. It's suddenly become not so much of a choice, really, I suppose. But, you know, entertain us by pretending it's hard to think about.
But yeah, you can choose anyone, don't worry about it.
Go on, what would you like us to do?
Let me think. This is a difficult one, really. Yeah, I think the stronghold.
Nice.
Oh, there you go. To be honest, I thought it would be more of a choice. Yeah, look at that. We'd like you to fight without dying at the stronghold. Please, Craig. No, Joseph. Thank you, sir. I'm sure that's not what you wanted. But that's what we want to see.
But yeah, so all of the strike points offer a different kind of challenge, and the main thing that we want to offer the player is to basically choose which kind of challenge they want to take and how they want to go about it. There isn't a right or wrong way of taking on any of these challenges. It's up to the player how they go about it, and that's the main thing. Like I said, the weapon customization is a big part of this, so it's important for us to let the player feel comfortable with what weapons they choose. So whatever kind of weapon they decide to construct, it's their call. Whether
How much can you carry? Do you have a large loadout in this?
Yeah, well, there's a fair amount you can carry, but at the moment, the player is restricted to 2 weapons at a time,
Okay.
plus a pistol. But you can get upgrades for that as well, which could change.
And it's a first-person shooter, obviously, at its heart. Does stealth play